We know that. So in this particular section, we are going to talk about why at all security governance is required. We understood, right? Security is required. And to lay down that foundation for security, we also need to have security governance. Otherwise, in a big enterprise, things are not going to work. We need to have a baseline defined. We need to have some policies, procedures, and those kind of things defined. We need to have roles and responsibility defined. We need to have the proper expectations defined when somebody joins your company, right? How company is going to deal with different situations, like, for example, when there is a ransomware attack, how you're going to deal with it. You need to have a consistent policy which everybody can follow, so that there is no, you can say, there is no conflict when people are dealing with the same thing, because objective for everyone is the same: to keep the business flying and to maintain security. But at the same time, if policies are not there, roles and responsibilities are not defined, proper funding is not available, proper good guidelines and objectives are not defined, then that is going to backfire you all the time, right? So that is where we need security governance, something as a governance framework which can really make sure that you are compliant with all regulatory framework, with contractual requirement, with business requirement. So for that, governance is required. So when we talk about governance, there are multiple aspects to this, right? First and foremost, what is required? Security governance is a practice. It is a practice which all companies need to follow to make sure that they have a well-structured security program in the company, and it is being properly set up with proper thought process, and that is implemented, that is being, you can say, enforced, and it is being monitored at all time, right? So with that regard, we will say it's a collection of best practices related to supporting, defining, directing the security effort of a particular company. It is just not a documentation, right? Security governance is just not a documentation that you defined few policies, as and when some kind of audit will happen, we will showcase those policies. It has to be operational. It has to be a live document. It has to be followed rigorously on day-to-day basis, right? So for that, you need to define, there are multiple aspects which will come into this, like your leadership. Leadership support, right? So there may be, like, there are two companies, company A and company B. In company A, your security staff want to do something, or your IT staff want to do something, right? But then it is coming from there, the initiative is from them, and then there is no support from top leadership. Do you think is that going to work?
No.
It's not going to work, because this model is bottom-up approach. This is called as bottom-up approach, which is not going to work. Maybe for some innovative ideas and all, it is always the best model to follow, but not for at least implementation and governance of security. Security has to be a top-down approach. It has to be a top-down approach, wherein the emphasis on security need to flow from top to bottom. Otherwise, what will happen? Your security team want to implement something. For example, there is a server, they want to get it patched in time. But then there is a push from business. Business will say, no, this patch means it requires a downtime, and we cannot restart the server, because this server, if it goes down, it is going to impact our security. Or maybe you need to make some password changes. You have some service accounts and you want to change it as a security professional, but business is not allowing it because they say there is a downtime. Now, what to do in this situation? If your top leadership is not interacting with business leadership and telling them that this is something which is mandatory, then it is not going to work. People will not support you. You will not be able to implement security controls or whatever required. And then finally, you will land up with some kind of breach, right? So that is what leadership support is the first thing you need to have, right? Then what else? Sorry. Give me a second. What is the other thing? Let's do some brainstorming. What all things should come into your security governance? Compliance.
What's the objective?
Compliance to legal, contractual, and business requirement. That has to be ensured by your security governance. Then I think somebody was saying some point.
Now, telling what is the objective, your purpose, your mission, or your statement?
Exactly. You need to get aligned, right? Aligned security with enterprise objectives. We'll talk about that as well in just a short while. Okay, wonderful. What else? Define roles and responsibilities for all the teams which are involved, right? Follow all ethics, because ethics, everything you can't implement by force. You can't make a policy for each and everything. Few things will come to you in the form of guidance, guidelines, or ethics. So ethics is a behavior which is expected from a prudent employee, right? So those ethics is also something which will fall in here, right? Then what else?
Monitoring.
Obviously, monitoring will be how you are going to implement controls and then monitor those controls. So that will mostly come into monitoring part, but I will take your point. Monitoring, or you can say oversight.
Oversight, yeah.
Oversight of security. So there is a regular cadence wherein every week you need to send a report to the leadership, or there is a call with the leadership. You are going to update, this is what happening in my area, these are the prime risks, and then leadership will give you some directions from them, right? Highlight any kind of risk which is coming, right? That is also one thing. Then you also need to think about privacy related things, because that's a big area nowadays, right? It should also take care of import-export controls. What are those?
But sir, it depends upon the business, right? The nature of business?
Mostly, but privacy is such a demon, right? You will almost see it everywhere.
No, the import-export controls.
For software, you will have import-export control as well, because even if you export a software, you definitely have to, but you cannot do it for Cuba.
Okay. In that sense.
So those are
correct, because you cannot import and export everything. If, like, for example, you are in US, you cannot export everything. There is a separate list they maintain, and a few of the things like cryptographic related thing, there will be a limitation on that. We'll talk about that separately.
Got it. Yeah.
Then you also need to, like, the first point, we somehow forget that you need to have those policies, that particular framework defined, right? Governance tools. Sorry guys, my pen is making me crazy actually. Somehow there is some problem with this.
Sir, one question, like most of the time what happened, like from the security teams, we are getting the mails, like just to test it out, the phishing mails. just to test it out how you are behaving. So what it comes into that means what that type of features come into all this category, because they are sending the some phishing mail, so that they will make sure that you should not trap in that type of things. And if it is like if you click it, then you have to complete those trainings and all. Those are what the security measure our team and our company is doing. So what it comes into means what are all these type of things is come into the our
all comes
governance.
This all comes here.
Oh,
Normally, as per NIST, something they call it as SETA program: Security, Education, Training, and Awareness Program.
Okay.
So it is not a luxury. A company has to follow these, right, and maintain a record of all the people. They are given security trainings. They understand where to share data, how to share data, which all platform to use to share data, what practice they should follow, how to identify phishing emails, and those kind of things, right? So all this is being implemented. It is being monitored on a constant basis by different roles and responsibilities defined. There is accountability defined. Everything will be defined in a very well structured, documented way, because security governance should also be a piece to showcase. For example, your company go and take a insurance, right? Cyber, like you take a ransomware insurance. Now this is picking up, right? Risk transfer is one of the options which companies are taking it. So this area is being picking up. Or people used to take cyber crime insurance, and those different type of insurance are available in security. No, it is good, right? You took an insurance, and on a monthly basis, you are paying some money to a third-party company to give you this particular option. So what they say, if you are hurt or impacted by a like, even if you have all the security practices, but even if then also if you are hurt by a particular incident or breach, then we are going to help you. We are going to give you money to kind of compensate that particular situation, right? But then you took an insurance, but you did not define your policies, framework, everything. You did not define roles and responsibility. You don't have a mechanism to work. You don't have a well-structured security program. Then at one particular day, if some breach happens and your company go back and ask for insurance, these people will ask you simply, right? Showcase. Please show us what due care you are following, what due diligence you are following. If it is found that your company is not exercising security, just taking an insurance and relaxing, it is not going to work. So that company will not give you. So your security governance is also something which you can showcase. You can showcase in case of a legal requirement. You can showcase as a contractual requirement. It will also help you to establish assurance among your clients. So they understand if we are taking some services from this particular company, they follow, they have a well-structured governance program. They are doing the governance right, and my data will be safe, or my interest will be safe, right? So security governance is just not for you. It is also for establishing business, right? Any questions, guys, on this brainstorming part?
Sir, one question, sir. The challenge that we face to the top leadership on explaining what is the business impact. So how do we translate that into a problem? Like you are saying it as a top-down approach. Now the top-down approach will be like the business will tell the IT teams and different business domains as to these are the objectives that you will have to cater to. But the challenge that we face when integrating the system. So it could be something like I have a Apache server that I might not be able to integrate with my mainframe server. So it may be a challenge that the business may say, okay, I'm not able to communicate with this. I need to again invest some more money. The business will say I don't have the money. So how do you mitigate such issues that come into play?
Exactly. You hinted out on a pain point, right? See, I will tell you, some around like 5 years back, this was a big problem that business has their own, they talk about benefits always, right?
Yes.
And security people talk about security holes and all that, something which people may not realize immediately. People may think, why you are at all, like we are using an application for last maybe 5 years. Why now you want to go and do a risk assessment on this application? Right? What is changing? Why you are doing this risk assessment? So because you can't prove them immediately that if you don't do it, tomorrow you are going to lose out these many dollars, right?
Yes.
So this is a constant problem, and the solution can only come through your leadership. Just give me just 10 seconds, please. Okay. So this is a common problem, right? Even now, like many companies, like this problem is even now persistent. I'm not saying it is completely resolved, but all these kind of breaches happening nowadays, right? Now your board of directors are more concerned if there is a breach. Somehow their company name, they should not hear on it on a one fine day. They should not hear from their television set that there has been a breach with their company. People are worried. Leadership is worried, right? So that is why I would say it has to be a top-down approach. Situation was not that great somewhere around like 5 years back, but slowly people is starting realizing that security is not an option. We must do it. There is no other option for us, right? So now I would say it's still happening, but the main connect between this, like to resolve this problem, is you as a security advisor or you as a security professional, you have to learn a new skill to convert these technical jargons and those kind of problems into something which looks very tangible for business.
Like the
Right? You
storytelling,
need to convince them in a right way.
like the storytelling part that we need to bring
Exactly. And there is one good thing is a lot of security breaches happening. You can leverage those as one of the example, right? Even big firms are getting compromised, so you can take that as an example. You can say our security posture may not be that great as with Microsoft or this big giant or this big giant, and see, this has happened even after that. So we at least need to have this. So those kind of problems still remain, but this is there has to be a like constant struggle in this point. I hope that makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's also think about this this particular diagram. Even though COVID 2019 is not holistically covered in CISSP, because this is a CISSP exam, but this COVID 2019 is a very good, well-established IT framework. And I don't think there is any other book defining governance better than this, right? So what is the end objective of your governance? Why at all you will have governance? So what will happen is there may be stakeholders or people who are investing in a particular publicly traded company, right? There may be silent investors, and then they set up something like as a governing body, all right? Like here it will be your CEO, your CIO, your CTO, whatever you want to say, right? So what will happen is all these people who are the stakeholder, who is the stakeholder in a company? Anybody who has a interest in the growth of the company, how the company is doing. Either it can be a direct interaction because you invested money. It can also be as simple as like a supply chain. You are getting some item from that particular company, but that company is not available today. You are thinking like, oh, how do I do it now? Right? All those people. It can be also a end user who purchased some stock for a particular company, right? And that is how, because this is a publicly traded company or something, that is where they are the owners and stakeholders. And then They cannot come and work for the company. They invested in the company because they want to get profit out of this company, right? And then that is why all these responsibilities is delegated to a governing body. We call it as executive committee, right? And then that committee may be headed by your CEO, CIO, CFO, whatever, like different C's you see there, right? And then this governing body will then set the right tone and set the right direction. For example, today the security posture is here, and after 3 years we need to go here. This is 2020, this is 2023. They will make a strategy, and then based on that they will have some roadmap. They will prepare some kind of touch points as a milestone or something, right, to evaluate and relook how well we are doing. Are we really achieving what we decided? All that kind of thing, right? So they will set the right directions. How they set the right directions? They may sign policies, procedures, all those kind of things. They may have roles and responsibility defined. They will have budget defined. They will approve some kind of business cases and all that. And that is how the entire thing will run. So they are kind of, that is why we call it as a governing body. They are the people who are responsible for governance, right? And then what will happen is below that will come your management. Maybe senior management, like company to company, it will change. It may be senior management. So these senior management, they will actually take these directions. Based on that, they will make their plans and then they will execute. So they will instruct the operational managers who are there on ground, like you and me heading a particular team, right? And then we will be driving all the operations on the ground level to meet the company objective, then getting reported back to management. Management will take that, and then oversight is done by the governance committee, because these people again are going to report to the governing body, right? And anything goes bad, who is accountable? This governing body is accountable to whom? It is accountable to owners and stakeholders. All people may be active or inactive, who have invested or have some interest with the company. All these, the governing body is actually accountable to them. Are you able to understand this entire process?
Yes, sir.
Right? Now, let's talk about these people who are actually investing or maybe have some interest with your company. What interest they have with you, right? Their first objective is benefit realization. They invested in your company because they want some better money. Otherwise, who will go and invest? First and foremost thing, right? They are also concerned how the risk is optimized, how this company is managing their risk. If company is not managing risk, whose money will go off?
Stakeholders' money.
The stakeholders' money, right? So they're also concerned on risk optimization. Are we really managing risk? The governance body is really managing the risk in the company. That is why we have something called as enterprise risk management. Every company who has a good governance model, they have an enterprise risk management framework. And then they're also interested on resource optimization, because my money is what being used by this company, how well they are actually like utilizing my money. Are they investing in right tools? Are they investing in right people? Are they investing in right strategies? So these are the different three different aspects which creates value for a stakeholder. This is called as value creation, right? And now to do it, what we need to do? We need to have governance enablers. We need to have roles and responsibilities defined, activities defined, relationships defined, like multiple RACI and all that, like things defined. And that is how we go, right? And then again, this falls back to whom? Governance scope. All this may be decided, all roles and responsibilities, activities and relationship, it is coming under the scope, what scope you have, right? And then this is how the entire cycle actually works. Does it make sense? You understand what is governance? To give you more idea, there is something called as enterprise governance. So enterprise governance will come all different departments. Whoever comes part of this company, right? And maybe IT comes here, HR system come here, public relation come here, and maybe sales comes here. There is a manufacturing department comes here, like maybe different verticals you may have in your company. Over to that, there is something called as enterprise governance. And then enterprise governance also need to manage risk, called as enterprise risk management. And then below that, now IT is one of the function who is going to govern horizontally on all this. Because why I say so, earlier there used to be an IT department, separate IT department, right? If you need to do something related to IT, you need to go and ask to these people, they will do and give it back to you, and you keep doing your work. But that is not the case nowadays. Everything has gone digital. So the IT has now turned into enterprise IT. It has turned into enterprise IT. Earlier, a business owner was not owning a server. They were not owning a database server or a particular application, right? Anything related to IT or computing need to be owned by your IT department. But now this is not the case. Your business can have their own setup and IT people will help manage it. So this IT, which was separately was a department earlier, now it is part of every different function, corporate function or business function, whatever you have in your company. That is the model we normally call as enterprise IT. And that is why security need to be taken care of. And that is why it's not something we can implement in silo. It has to be implemented on the entire different verticals you have in your company, right? So this security governance is nothing but just a small part of the entire bigger enterprise governance. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.